Today we will be discussing lists in Python, and it's similar to the concept of arrays in different programming languages. Okay, so lists are used to store multiple items in a single variable. And you can see here that this pertains to the variable that holds the lists. And this bracket contains the elements that are separated by a comma. And for example number 1, create a list with elements containing numbers from 1 to 5. And you can simply do that by having this variable declaration equal to the brackets. And these are the elements of the array, okay, that are separated by a comma. And comma indicates that it has a different memory location. Okay, so to print this out, this would be the output. Okay, and again, list can contain multiple elements in a variable. However, it uses the same data type. No, if there is different data type, there will be an error. So that's basically how lists are used, storing the same values with the same data, or storing different elements with the same data type in one variable. Okay, and for example, you're asking, how are we going to access? For example, we want to access this one, 3. Okay, and the basic structure of a list is numList is the variable. Okay, let me just comment this one. NumList is the variable equal to, and this is which the memory location of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pertains to 0. It starts with 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. Okay, if you want to access this one, you need to get this address, which is 0. So, okay, let me just parallel this one, okay? So, basically, these are the address, these are the memory location, and these are the elements or the storage. Okay, and if we're going to implement this one, we want to access number, which we want to access the third element. So what is the third element? 1, 2, 3. So 3 is the third element, and we want to get this value, so we need to know its memory location. So the memory location of 3 is equal to 2 because this starts with 0. Okay, and to do that, we could simply numList, okay, and access the memory location bracket and then 2. Okay, so we are expecting a value of 3 at first, or 13. Okay, so it already changed to 13 because of this line. So let me just comment this one. Okay, and let me redeclare this variable. Okay, so this is the difference in interpreted language. It's not sequential at all. Actually, it's sequential, but there are chances that it doesn't. Okay, so basically here, no, you can already output number 3 by accessing its memory location. Again, 0, 1, 2, and so on and so forth. So that's why the output is 3. For example, you want to change the value of 3 in that memory location. And to do that, we can just simply use the bracket operator, which is this one. NumList bracket 2, which is pertaining to this memory location or this element, and replace the number by 13. And to do that, you could just simply use this function. And to output this one, okay, we can already change the value here in the list. Okay, and there are other useful functions in Python as well. You can simply do this by, when you are indicating -1, it pertains that you want to get the last element. So, and for example, again, you can see here that this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you want to access starting from the last element, you can simply do this by -1, -2, -3, and so on and so forth. And let's just output this one. Okay, you can see here that 5 is obtained because this pertains to the last element. Okay, and that's basically, how you will easily access the last element of an array. Okay, the next one, reverse order of the element. Actually, there are different functions in Python to reverse the element, but this is the simplest one. Okay? And to do that, you could just simply add colon, colon, and then -1. And what will happen, it will reverse the order of your list. Okay? And this is an advanced feature, and we're going back there later. Okay? The next one. Now, other useful functions in list. For example, we want to know the length of the list. And to simply do that, we could just add here len. So len pertains to the length of your list. Okay? And to output this one, okay, you can see here that the length is 5. And how is it 5? Because it starts with 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But this is the memory location. And to get the length is the number of elements within the list. And the number of elements are 1 or is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's basically the length is basically 5. Okay? Or here, basically 5. Next one. Okay, sorting without changing the original list. And actually, Python already have a function to sort the list, no? And to simply do that, we could simply declare this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and use the function sorted to sort the list here in numList and store it to the variable numSort. And to do this, in order to output this one, you could see here 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? And however, you want to say na you want to change the original variable. You don't want to store it to a new variable. And to simply do that, we could simply use this function, numList, which is this is the variable, and then that operator, that operator, then click sort. Okay? And what will happen here is the original variable will be sorted. But since it's already sorted, you can see the change. But let's replace this one by 5. And let's say this is 2. Okay? And this is 6. Okay? And to do that, we should see 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Okay. So that's basically, so what's the difference between the two? This one, okay, replaces the original list. However, this one, okay, this one sorts the list but doesn't change the original variable. So that's basically the difference. The other one is destructive and the other one is not. Okay, when we say destructive, it replaces the original value. Okay? And maybe you're saying, sir, I want to replace or I want to remove an element from the list. So how are we going to do that? We just can't simply say 0 kaagad eh, but we can't remove. And to do that, we will use the function pop. Okay? So it pops the element, okay? And it says here remove and return item at index, no? So when we say this, the numList pop, then 2, so 2 here pertains to the memory location. So the memory location of this one is 0, 1, and 2. So we will be removing 3. So we are expecting that the result is 1, 2, 4, and 5. And you can see here that this is the result. Okay? And the next one. Yan. We want to insert an element. No? We want to insert on our list. And we say na, I want to enter in between 3 and 4. Okay? So to do that, no, we will put a insert in index position 2. So this is an index position and this is the, you can see here, this is the index and this is the object. When you say object, this is the value of the you want to store on the index where we want to store it. Okay? So basically, you can see here, insert 2. So 0, 1, and then 2. And then you want to store a number 4 on this memory location. So when we insert a value here in this memory location, what will happen here is, let me just comment this one. Okay, numList equal to 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 3. And we want to store a value of 4 here in this memory location. Okay? So what will happen if we store here a 4, okay, it will append to another location. So basically, naglagay ka lang dito ng elements. So we are expecting the same output now when we run this one. So let me just run this one. Okay, so you can see here 1, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5. Now that's basically how we use insert. However, you want to say, I want to enter an element sa last po. And to do that, you can simply do that by using the append. So append here is, it inserts a value to the last element of the list. Okay, so basically here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and appending 6 here will pertain to, or will add a 6 here. And you can, when we run this one, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's basically another function for list in Python. Okay, for example, you want to output each element. No, you don't want to see a brackets or commas when you output this one. And to do that, we can use the for loop now in our past discussion. So for loop uses the same syntax, for x in, and then the range or the list. Now, what will happen here is you will go, or you will be traversing each element of the list. Okay, let's say this is your list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So, ang gagawin niya, iisa-isahin niya per iteration. So, you can see here, first here, element. Okay, in time 0, you can see here x. So, the first value is 1. No? So, what the output here is 1. And after nun, okay, I'm done. Let's go back. Let's go back to this function. So numList. Okay, what's the next element? 2. So you will be outputting here 2. And so on and so forth. So what you are doing is you're traversing each element of the list. So it will loop how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 6 times you will be looping inside this one as you traverse each element of your list. Okay, and knowing list, there are also two-dimensional lists. When I say two-dimensional list, it has rows and now it has also columns. Kasi before, it only has a row but it doesn't have any columns. But right now, we can add a column using a two-dimensional approach. So when we say two-dimensional list, it has a row and then column. So to basically, if you're, how are you going to declare this one? You can simply do that by adding list within a list. Okay, so you can see here, this is a list and this is another list. And adding a comma, it will pertain to a two-dimensional list. Okay, so you can see here, we've added an elements. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this one on the other side is 1.1, 2.1, 3.1, so on and so forth. Okay, so what will happen here is, you can see it here, right? You can simply output this one. However, what if you want to access 1.1? Since this is a two-dimensional list, no? And we can just simply have one bracket to access this address. Okay, so to simply do that, what we're going to do is to use to the list. And first is the row, okay? Or the column rather. So since it has two columns, 1 and then 2. So 0 and then 1. And since we want to access 1.1 is in the second column, we will be adding it here, 1. And next one, we want to access 1.1. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is 1.1. So to do that, it's we just indicate 0. And from there, you will be able to get 1.1 on the list. Okay? Next one. What if you want to output it one by one? But since this is a two-dimensional, hindi siya pwedeng basta print lang. No? And to simply do that, you need to get the length of your rows. Since you want to get the rows, and you will know that if this is row 1, and then this is row 2. Okay? So to do that, you can just simply len then to the list. And if you want to know the columns, since this is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5. Okay? And to do that, we can simply just zero this one, since both of these elements have the same number of columns. So that's why we've used len to the list 0. Okay? And to output this one, we will be using again a for loop. And why is it it contains nested for loop? Since first we want to go iterate each column, each row rather. So row 1 and row 2. And then we want to iterate each element or traverse each element. So to do that, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. And we will be using another for loop. And to output this one, you can see here, row and then column. And output it from one by one. This is the result. Okay? And our last discussion for today, tuples. So what's the difference between a tuples and a list? Basically, both are similar in nature, but the difference is tuples can store different data types. For example, you want to store a string, you want to store a integer. Okay, so what will happen, tuples, you can declare or you can store different data types within one list. So that's basically the difference between tuple and a list. Also, when you have already declared or added a value to the tuple, you will not be able to replace its value. And it is unchangeable. Okay, and to do that, you can simply see here. You can declare tuple using a parenthesis. Just like a list, it uses a bracket, but a tuple uses a parenthesis. Okay? So here, you can see it here. In S tuple, hey is a string, 1 is a number or an integer, and true is a Boolean variable or a Boolean type. Now, and to print this one, you could use the print function. And you can see the result here. Okay? And the same goes here. How are you going to get the value or the second element? We could use a bracket again. So 0, 1, and 2. And the output would be true. Okay? And you can see here, what if we want to change, no? Ayaw nyo maniwala na hindi siya pwedeng palitan. Okay? We've already declared it here and we want to replace the value of true to false. And what happened? There's a type error. Again, tuples cannot be reassigned. So meaning, everything that you've already declared to your tuples are already constant. So you will not be able to replace its value. Okay? And that's it. That's our discussion for lists. So if you have questions, feel free to message or comment on our Google Class. Okay, thank you.